Am I the jerk for telling my wife to get over it, knowing that she's struggling with infertility? Make sure to subscribe to Am I the Jerk on YouTube and hit the notification bell. I'm a 42-year-old man, and my wife, who's 38, have been trying for a child since we tied the knot 6 years ago. We haven't had any success. We have had failed IVF treatments and miscarriages again and again. This has obviously taken a toll on my wife. I own a business. A year after my wife and I got married, I hired Noah, who's 26 years old. Noah has a fiance, Taylor, who's 26 as well. Noah and I get along great. He's like a second son. I have one from a previous marriage and we have a good bond. Taylor is also a great girl. She's very kind and they seem very happy in their relationship. My wife has always had some sort of animosity towards Taylor. I'm not sure why. She just seems to get very angry around her. Early on in a meeting, Taylor tried to talk to my wife, but she would always brush her off or ignore her. My wife has told me she thinks Taylor is too stuck up, only because she comes from money. Over the weekend, we all attended a gathering. We ran into Noah and Taylor. Now, Taylor is a very slim girl, and her stomach is usually flat. She looked very bloated. She sat for a majority of the party and was only drinking water. She also wasn't as dressed up as she usually is. Noah had talked to me a few days prior asking me for tips on being a dad. He said they were expecting, so I knew this. It slipped my mind to mention to my wife beforehand. A few of the other women at the party asked Taylor if she was pregnant. She said yes. They then asked her how far along she was, and she said she was only 11 weeks, but they were expecting triplets. So she looked a lot bigger than she would had they only been having one. My wife lost her mind, to put it lightly. She started accusing Taylor of always trying to one-up her and being a stuck-up bee. Taylor started sobbing, and I quite literally had to drag my wife out of the party and drive her home. Noah and the other guests were trying to console Taylor as we left. To say that I was livid would be an understatement. We went back and forth, and I told her that she would need to get over whatever hatred she has towards Taylor because she has done nothing wrong, and that our fertility issues are not the fault of another person. She called me an unbelievable jerkhole, and we haven't spoken to each other since. I talked to Noah and Taylor earlier today, and they said that they were fine. Taylor said she understood and didn't mean to upset my wife. She also said that she's just very sensitive and emotional. I told her it wasn't her fault and that I hope she has a safe pregnancy and that they could reach out for any help. My wife overheard this and called her sister. Now they're both calling me a jerk for siding with Taylor and Noah. But am I the jerk for telling my wife to get over it, knowing that she's struggling with infertility? There is a lot of misplaced anger the wife has for Taylor here. Taylor just seems like she happens to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. This is obviously a super sensitive subject to the wife, but then Taylor not only gets pregnant, but gets triplets. She gets 3 babies in one shot. Maybe the wife feels like it's okay to act like this because there's some sort of power dynamic since the husband, the OP here, owns the business, and she thinks that she can just treat people really poorly because her husband owns a business, which is a bizarre take, but sometimes people are like that. And the wife telling her sister what happened and then them both getting mad at the OP is probably a case of the wife not completely accurately telling the sister what would be going on, because if she did, the sister would have no reason to be mad at her and call the OP a jerk. So, knowing what you know, is he a jerk or not, and what would you do? Am I the jerk for announcing my pregnancy in front of my infertile friend? She recently found out. I'm a 25-year-old female, and I found out that I was pregnant 3 weeks ago. We decided to wait until we told. Our friends are like our family. We share everything with each other right when they happen, so this was not typical behavior. 2 friends in the group, Sandra, who's 28, and her husband Sam, can't biologically have children. Sandra can't biologically have children. They found this out about a month ago, hence why we waited to announce the pregnancy. Both of them were sad about it. Sam and I grew up together, so I know how much he wanted kids. Both my husband and I had to tell our friends. I already had started to show symptoms, and I didn't want them to feel like I kept this from them. We are very close. All of us have been friends since forever. Most of us have not so great families too, so we're each other's chosen family. We wanted to share this happy moment with them. We called everyone over to our house. Everyone already knew something great happened because I always make cookies when I get good news. I told them, yeah, something great has happened and that I was pregnant. I told them that I found out about a month ago as a response to someone who asked. Kelsey, another friend, told me that she was hurt. We didn't tell them immediately, like she did when she was pregnant. Everyone was happy for us, or so I thought. I felt so much relief after telling them. Sam gave me a hug and I could see that he was happy sad. And I told him that I actually actually wanted him to be the godfather of our baby. He just kept hugging me and I started crying out of happiness. I didn't notice until Kelsey's husband pointed out, but Sandra was no longer sitting on the couch. I went to the kitchen to check on her and she was crying. I told her I'm sorry if this was difficult considering her news and asked her if she needed anything at all. She didn't say anything. She just went to the living room. I followed her and she turned around and said, "You're a bee!" I was shocked. And I guess I said, "What?" And I laughed. She said I was so insensitive and that I purposely got pregnant. She was sobbing and I just didn't know what to do. My friends comforted her while Sam and my husband checked on me. Later, it was just Sandra, Sam, my husband, and me because my husband said whatever this was, we had to talk about it since we were a family. Sandra said it was a jerk move to announce my pregnancy just 3 weeks after she found out she couldn't have kids and that there was nothing to talk about. She left and Sam stayed back to apologize. This happened a week ago and no one has heard from Sandra since. I can't sleep. I feel so guilty. Everyone insists that I'm not the jerk, but they might be biased because who tells a pregnant woman that they're the jerk, right? So I'm hoping you guys will tell me the truth because if I'm in the wrong, I need to apologize. Am I the jerk? If the OP really is that close to this couple and they really knew how sensitive of a subject this was, of how hurtful it was and painful the whole situation of not being able to have a baby is, maybe she should have gone to them first without the surprise and said what was going to happen instead of just having them be among the crowd of people finding out for the first time. A lot of people wouldn't mind or wouldn't care, but if the OP knew them well enough to know that the girl would be this upset, then talking to her ahead of time would have helped a lot. But let me know what you think. Jerk or not a jerk? And what would you do? Am I the jerk for throwing my sister-in-law's infertility in her and her husband's face? I'm a 26-year-old female. My sister-in-law is 30 years old and she's infertile. It's literally her whole personality and she uses it to control us, in my opinion. I'll give you some context. She cried loudly all day at my wedding because we'd be having kids soon. She literally made sure she got more attention than me on my wedding day. She threw a full-on tantrum the whole way through all my brother-in-law's weddings events because she wanted his bride to disinvite her pregnant twin sister. None of us are allowed to make pregnancy, birth announcements, no newborn or pregnancy pics until she feels ready. No babies or pregnant women are allowed at family events or at my in-laws, or no mention of said baby/pregnancy. Apparently, you can't have PPD because people can't have kids. Honestly, I can't take it anymore. I had to hide my pregnancy last year and tiptoe around her feelings. When I finally gave birth via an emergency C-section, I was in the hospital for a week. In that week, my father, who lives in a different country, died of a heart attack. Over restrictions, I wasn't allowed visitors, but my sister-in-law and mother-in-law made sure to scream down the phone because my sister posted a picture of my dad's last pic, which was him FaceTiming my son. We cut contact until December. Everything was okay until today. I went live on Facebook because my daughter, who's 4 years old, was teaching my son to say mama. He finally said mama, but kept giving my husband dirty looks when he'd asked him to say dad. I realized the minute the nasty comments, phone calls, and texts started coming that I made a mistake. But at this stage, forget her. We just blocked them. My sister-in-law, her husband, my mother-in-law showed up at my house screaming about how insensitive I am and that I knew it would trigger her, etc. I was trying to calm everyone down until her husband called my kids crotch goblins. So I looked her straight in the eye and I told her I don't give a flying hoot that she's infertile. That's her problem and not mine. Then I told her husband he probably can't have kids because he's a little bee that can't afford IVF. And then I slammed the door in their face and looked at my husband, who was shocked, and told me he'd put the kids to bed and have some wine. I've gotten so many messages from my sister-in-law's friends and cousins that I'm starting to think that I went a bit too far. So the update from the future says a few things have happened in the last few hours and my sister-in-law and brother-in-law showed up at 5 a.m. screaming and banging on my windows. They did some damage to my car and broke 2 windows trying to get in, along with destroying my daughter's swing set. We called the police and they both got arrested. We have cameras. My brother-in-law, his wife, and strangely, father-in-law want us to press charges, and we plan to. We also plan on cutting contact, getting a restraining order. We are currently at my brother-in-law's on the advice of our father-in-law. I've documented any calls or messages I've gotten from her friends/in-laws. She will be completely cut off, so will my mother-in-law, so we can enjoy our kids growing up. And for those wondering about the gender reveal story, here it is. My brother-in-law's wife, Rose, decided to have a secret gender reveal with just close friends and family family so sister-in-law wouldn't find out. The party was beautiful. But about 20 minutes after they popped the gender reveal balloons, my sister-in-law comes screaming into our house like a banshee. Someone posted the reveal on Facebook, screaming at Rose, her husband doing the same to my brother-in-law, so Rose started screaming back at my sister-in-law and she attacked Rose. Her husband knocked 2 tables over, one of which had a beautiful cake. Long story short, Rose's sister gave my sister-in-law her desserts and my sister-in-law's husband got a face full of cake. To make it worse, my sister-in-law called the police trying to get Rose and my brother-in-law arrested, but she forgot that multiple people were there recording her. My mother-in-law tried to get involved, but Rose told her to piss off. So, knowing all that you know, am I the jerk for throwing my sister-in-law's infertility in her and her husband's face? It's unreal that certain families operate like this. This is just normal, that you have to adhere to the rules of not talking about your own kids because of no reason in particular other than it will trigger her, as the OP said here. I mean, I know it's not the same thing, but what if that was applied to other scenarios, like she just couldn't get a job because of some sort of medical situation or whatever, and she didn't want anyone else to talk about having a job or else it would trigger her, so nobody can ever mention their job or reference their job that is intimately woven into so many aspects of their life. I mean, this kind of thing could be applied to anything, but I think with the infertility, it's particularly sensitive to the sister-in-law. But the OP did snap a little. She said what she wanted to say. She slammed the door in their face. But then I think a lot of people would say the line was crossed when they all showed back up at her house and started destroying things, banging on the windows, damaging the car, even breaking 2 of the windows, destroying the daughter's swing set. I mean, that is converting a verbal argument into a physical one and destroying her property. So let me know what you would do if you're in this situation, and jerk or not a jerk, and why. Am I the jerk for complaining about my pregnancy to someone who is infertile? I am a 24-year-old female. I'm 35 weeks pregnant with twins and experiencing just about every symptom possible, especially really severe RLP, which apparently stands for round ligament pain. I'm in constant pain, and as excited as I am to have children, I am not enjoying pregnancy at all. I decided to go and see my parents a few days ago. I haven't seen them in a while and probably won't again until my babies are born. When I got there, my sister, who's 27 years old, and her close group of friends were there. She still lives at home, so I expected she would be, but I didn't know her friends would be there. I was asked about how I was doing, so I told them the truth. I wasn't doing that good. One of the girls, Elle, was born without ovaries and therefore is infertile. I was aware of this, but honestly just completely forgot in that moment. She excused herself, and one of the other girls went after her knowing she'd be upset. My sister told me that she understood my pain, but I am a jerk for complaining when so many people would love to be pregnant but can't be. We got into an argument with me telling her friend that as sorry as I felt for her infertility, that wasn't my responsibility, and it didn't mean that I have to suffer in silence. But now my sister is super pissed. Am I the jerk for complaining about my pregnancy to someone who is infertile? So coming over to the house and forgetting that the friend has this issue and she would be upset is normal. You can't really remember every single thing for every single person that you're not even close to. It's your sister's friends, and it sounds like they don't live in the same place. That's all relatively normal and understandable, but where it changes is when they got into an argument, she has to go and say that her infertility isn't her responsibility. I mean, that's technically true, but it doesn't help the situation if you're trying to make this person who's crying not feel even worse about the situation. I mean, if she just said, hey, I got a lot going on, I didn't remember, that probably would have been the end of it. But even in the way that the OP describes it, she kind of came at her in an antagonistic type of way. So let me know what you would do if you're in the situation, jerk or not a jerk, and why. Am I the jerk for telling my sister she deserves to be miserable? I'm a 31-year-old female and I've been struggling with infertility. I really wanted to have kids, but that's not really possible, and it's very dangerous to even try it. So I just vent to my friends about my disappointment so I can accept the fact that I'll never have kids and go on with my life. My sister, who's 36 years old, has 2 lovely kids, an 8-year-old girl and a 1-year-old boy. My sister has always been very hostile with me due to the fact that I refuse to live by social norms and decided that I'll live my life for me and my own happiness with my own terms. My sister was always a more conservative person and didn't like me for that. When I broke the news about the multiple doctor's visits, when I was finally sure I'm infertile, my sister said to me, "Don't worry, we won't miss out on your babies anyway," then proceeded to show off about how wonderful it is to have kids and that women who are childless have no true meaning in life. I broke down crying that moment and I screamed at her, saying that she's a mean person. I called her out for staying with a man she doesn't love just so she can pretend she's a serious wife and mother, and how she's so sad and pathetic with her own life choices that she just projects it onto me. I ended up saying that she's a miserable person for her fake displays of happiness, and that they should be taken elsewhere and not be done out of pettiness towards me, and that she deserves to be miserable in her life. Many of my cousins took my side, but my mother, my father, and a couple of aunts claim that I am the jerk for telling my sister she deserves a bad life, and they say that I am bitter because I'm infertile, and she's not. So, am I the jerk? The OP here just hit the breaking point. She just could not stand it anymore, and the sister is so vindictive. I mean, there's always more to the story. We can never know the complete story, but the fact that she said, don't worry, we won't miss out on your babies anyway, she's got some sort of deep-seated resentment for the OP herself. I mean, to take the one thing that you know your sister is agonizing over the most, that you know your sister is troubled by the most, and then just grind it in by saying that, and then even saying that women that are childless have no true meaning in life. I mean, what a ridiculous thing to say in general. People can find meaning in anything. It doesn't have to be children. People find meaning in things I can't even conceive of. But even if she actually believed that was true, what's the intent behind saying that? It's literally nothing other than to just hurt her. So if this was your sibling who said this to you, how would you handle it? And jerk or not a jerk, and why? Don't forget to subscribe to Am I the Jerk on YouTube with notifications turned on by hitting that bell. And if you're into podcasts, make sure you follow the podcast as well. If one day you want to become a streamer and you want to play some good music but you don't want to worry about copyright issues, use the music that's linked down below. You can follow it so one day when you stream, you already have it ready to go. It's free. But either way, thanks a lot for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.